Hello, Alaukik. Thank you for joining this Conscious Leadership interview series.
Thank you, Smita, for inviting me. Glad to be
Thank
here.
you. So, to all our listeners, we have yet another guest, Mr. Alaukik Pandya. And I'm going to introduce Alaukik before we start our rapid fire round questions on conscious leadership. Alaukik is a seasoned technology leader with over 2 decades of experience in the global healthcare technology industry, driving large-scale agile transformations and building high-impact offshore delivery teams. He has contributed to international conferences sharing insights on how distributed agile teams can increase business value. His expertise lies in bridging business strategy with agile execution, making him a trusted guide for organizations navigating growth, complexities, and transformation. If we have to talk about agility in today's world, I think every leader has to demonstrate agility. And that's what I saw about you in your profile, Alokik. And I thought, who better than you I could invite as the next speaker to this conscious leadership series. On that note, since we are talking about agility, I've seen you've led some very large scale agile transformation projects in the healthcare space, which has been so sensitive. Uh, what does conscious leadership mean to you in such high pressure situations and the kind of projects that you have led?
Yeah, thank you. See, this agile transformations that we have been doing in the healthcare space are never simple, right? These are as complex as you can think of to start with. Um, what we do and what we have been also educating others to do is always start with end in mind. You need to know why you are embarking on that journey of agile transformation or safe or for that matter any such transformation, right? So really thinking through what are your objectives, what do you want to achieve at the end of this transformation or as an outcome of this transformation, how do you measure your success of this transformation? So this is what we spend good enough time, and what we did is we got together as a leadership team and then we had a good brainstorming in terms of what are our objectives to achieve this transformation. Are we trying to solve the problem that we have right now, or are we trying to solve the problem that we will have in the future, uh, to which we want to prevent that problem from happening? Hence, we are embarking on this journey. Right. So we actually went on the second aspect, that we started with the objective that we want to increase our business value sustainably while managing the increasing business complexity, while not having to increase the team capacity or increase the R&D investment. And while achieving all of that, ensuring that the teams are scaling up to deliver to that business objectives, and adapting to the new way of working. So we had to do a lot of changes, but setting those objectives or success factors from beginning helps us keep our vision clear to start with, and that's how we went on doing this transformation. Leadership is in terms of definitely ensuring that you are adapting to the dynamics, because what you set out to will definitely become challenged to achieve at some point or the later as you progress on that journey, because things will not be smooth and new challenges will emerge, business dynamics would change, team challenges would emerge which you've not anticipated. So tailoring or the adaptability is absolute must in this journey. Um, what becomes a problem is how much is too much. You don't know that, right? How little is too little, because you do want to adapt, but not let go of the crux of the framework or the process, right? Or at the same time, you don't want to do too little because that may not even give you what you're looking for. So no rule book or no framework will be able to ever tell you, or no coach for that matter will be able to tell you that what is too much, what is too little. And this is where the leaders have to step in and bring in that context, that why are we doing this, what is that we are wanting to achieve, is that good enough for us to clear our path so that we can progress further, right? And this is what we take pride in, saying that we have been very adaptable in our journey for this agile transformation, ensuring that we have a right alignment among the leadership, that why are we doing things the way, why are we deviating from what set procedure is. And that has made us successful to a large extent. And with more or less 6 years into this journey, I think we are still learning, because it's never a destination, it's always a journey in terms of how do you get better at driving this transformation of this scale.
Oh, you touched upon the most important. You spoke about a couple of things. But
Hmm.
one of the things that I liked, which is the core of conscious leadership, is understanding the purpose. Why are we doing what we are doing?
Hmm.
When we have that why clear,
Yeah,
automatically, not just the leaders, but the teams below them and the teams below them also know that how important is their respective role in this whole scheme of things, or something that the organization is trying to curate or create. Number one. Number two, in this dynamic world, like especially in the last 6, 7 years, things
hmm,
have changed so much. We really don't know whether what we are doing today is really going to work tomorrow. So how are we really? So
absolutely.
that's why that how little or how much is too much, we really may not know, and thereby adapting to different situations rather than panicking about it or thinking, oh, we did so much, but things have changed in the external world, but embracing them, navigating them, and peacefully trying to understand how to address every situation. And only then organizations are going to be sustainable. It's not surviving. We need to
Absolutely.
thrive in that environment. And sustainability
Right.
is not about surviving, it's about thriving.
Absolutely. And what you said is correct, because, if you see a problem as a temporary problem in this uncertain world, uh, you won't be able to solve its sustainability. You have to look at the problem as the opportunity to get better from what you have been doing, and see that this is not a stopgap solution that we want to put right now to get on to the problem, but we want to come out with a system which will help us deliver better value on a long term basis, right? And this is how we have always approached some of those changes, because um, you talked about uncertainty, be it COVID or what's happening in the world right now. Any situation that gets presented, the business dynamics do change completely. So if your systems are not robust enough to adapt to it in future, you keep changing yourself every now and then, and that doesn't help you deliver on the value. So you need to be really thinking ahead, and really putting your processes, your systems in such a way that you are being able to adapt to the whole problem space, not just a set of challenges that you are handling right now.
True that, true that. Be it COVID, then AI, then so many business or political challenges, and now this, things are never going to be the same. So we are not here to do quick fixes. But when we know the purpose, then I
Really.
think navigating the high pressures of this world also becomes, I won't say easy, but there is a certain level of acceptance because
Mm,
the goal or the purpose is pretty clear to the leaders. And I'm
absolutely.
assuming that's what keeps you much calmer.
Yeah, I mean, see, the purpose is what drives all of us, right? Be it individuals or organization or teams, right? Because the moment you set those purpose out loud, um, and you stick to it, everything follows. The changes follows, the processes follows, the priorities follows. So everything trickles down from the purpose statement.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I know, Alaukik, you believe that trust, collaboration, understanding teams better is very, very important for teams to be successful.
Yeah.
And we've worked on one such project.
Yes.
Uh, so how do you build this when you're working with these people from different geographies, countries? How do you build this trust and collaboration, which is so important as a leader?
And not easy. There is no formula that I can give you. Um, it took time, and it took a lot of consistency and perseverance to be able to build trust and collaboration in a global setup. Um, because you, when you're trusted with certain role or responsibility, doesn't mean that people believe and trust you that you will be able to do that. You have to prove consistently over period of time that you are, as a, not just as an individual but as a team, you are capable of doing what you're trusted with, right? And in the process you make mistakes, and we made ton of them. We made a lot of mistakes when we started off with our journey as offshore development center. We took on some roles and responsibilities, and we screwed up. We had problems with our release, we had issues with our timelines, we had attrition in the team, so you name it, and we had those problems. And in those moments you question that, are you really up for the job, right? And can you do it? And the answer to that is always your perseverance, right? And how you learn from those mistakes and not repeat the mistakes. You may make new mistakes, but may not be the same mistakes that you've had, right? And this is what helps build the trust, and we were able to build the trust eventually, right? Because when you get to the job, when you show your sincerity, genuinity to do certain things, there are challenges which are beyond your control, but then there are challenges which you can control and which you can learn from. We demonstrated over and over again that yes, we have been able to learn from the mistakes, and we delivered better. We do consistent deliveries, release after the release, version after the version. And that's how you build the trust. That's what I have seen. By the way, the trust is not for a person, it's for, because people do keep changing, right? Today I'm doing the job, tomorrow somebody else will do the job. It's for the process maturity that you develop as a team, because this keeps evolving. It becomes leaner and more efficient over the period, because you realize that certain things needs to be taken care. There are processes, there are ways you will manage it, and that's how the trust gets better. People do keep changing, but as long as the processes are mature enough, people will adapt to those processes and will deliver what is expected. So my approach, of course, I mean, you build that personal relationship with the people who you are working, and nothing to take away from that. But definitely, on the way, you have to make sure that your system is becoming more mature and your processes are becoming more mature, so that that trust continues regardless of who's doing that job.
Yeah. I'm seeing one common thread amongst all the conscious leaders is being
Mhm.
vulnerable and accepting the mistake, understanding that, okay, this may not have worked. What could we do better?
Mhm.
Yeah. Of course, not making the same mistake, but when leaders are accepting that things have not worked and this is a mistake, that's when the team members are also developing the trust, in the leader. And they say, hey, my leader is accepting the mistake, which means if I make that mistake, I make any mistake, I will be embraced for that and I will not be penalized for that. And that's where real innovation happens. If one is penalized for trying something and a mistake has happened and he or she is penalized, probably the organization will never be innovative. An
Hmm.
organization like yours, who have to innovate literally like on a daily basis, trust and being vulnerable in those situations, I think is one of the key quality
Yeah.
of a conscious leader.
No, absolutely. And I echo what you said. The psychological safety has to be there, right? Otherwise, teams will not be able to perform to their creative best. Let's put it that way. Having said that, it's important to note that the accountability is equally important. Um, and when the teams are trusted with certain responsibility, individuals are trusted with certain responsibility, if they don't deliver and if this gets slipped, it has a repercussion and it has an impact in our space of work to the person or person's life, because we are working in a healthcare space, right? So that accountability cannot be discounted. While psychological safety is important, and it's difficult to strike a balance, because you have to hold people accountable for what they are supposed to be doing. At the same time, you need to give them psychological safety and allow them to make mistakes and learn from that. And you as leader, make a trade-off at times, because sometimes accountability and delivery quality and other things are more important than ensuring that the psychological safety is there, right? So yes, mistakes and other things are encouraged and people have to learn from it, but at certain points mistakes are not acceptable, and there's
Absolutely.
no question to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the space that you are in, precision is like 100%. It can't be 99.9%.
Absolutely.
Right? So people have to be held accountable while they are given the liberty or the freedom to innovate, but not at the cost of the quality, because the space that you are in, 99.9% also does not work. Yeah,
Yeah.
true that, absolutely. Uh, you know, I've seen many people talk about agility, you know,
Mhm.
uh, we are agile organizations, or we believe in agility, or we need to do different things. Uh, I've not seen people understanding the real meaning of agility. It's like a process.
Mhm.
Uh, what's your take on being agile beyond these processes?
Mhm. Yeah, I
How
mean,
does
process.
what according to you is the should be the mindset of leaders,
Mhm.
instead of just it being a process?
I mean, that's true, because there's a lot of talk about ensuring that this process or that process or a framework, A framework or B framework. The challenge is in not in understanding those frameworks and guidelines, because these are simple, right? Somebody has thought through what is logically making sense and given you a template, go ahead and implement. Um, the challenge is not understanding those guidelines and templates, but understanding why do you want to implement it. Again, connecting back to what we discussed at the beginning, the purpose, why are you implementing certain process, is the most important part, right? And moment you understand that, you convince yourself that this is important. As a leader, that take an example, for example, agile has a part of retrospection, right? Or inspect and adapt. If you think inspect and adapt is an important process that you want your teams to implement, you as a leader have to be convinced that yes, that means we will allow the teams to learn from what they think they need to get better at. We will give them the space to get better, and not push them that hey, focus on what you need to do and get it done, don't worry about improvements and all that, right? So you need to buy into the process of what you want the teams to do. You need to do it yourself as a leader, because more you do it, more team sees that, okay, my leader is doing retrospection, right? Now we are talking about what we have done, what we could do better, and what we will change, right? So it's not about telling the team that, hey, you need to start doing inspect and adapt, because when you tell people, they will do what you ask them to do, because you're already leader. You do have an authority, right? And people will do what you will tell them to do, but that's, you will feel that that's not sustainable, because at some point they will not get the message in terms of why are they doing it, right? And moment you look other way, they will stop doing it, right? So what I have believed and what I have always encouraged is, we as leaders first start practicing what we want to preach. And moment we start practicing, that already sends a message to the team that this is important because my leaders are doing it, right? And probably you do it to an extent that you don't need to preach. People will just observe you and will start doing it. So that's how I built sort of a mindset, not just to me, but to my team, that let's start doing what is important first, and then we educate others that, hey, this is what we see as a benefit, and then they start doing it, right? Because as I said, that angle to, what's a culture in team sense, it's not what you tell them to do and then they will do it. That's obviously everybody will do it, right? That's no big deal about it. Moment they don't have a direction, what will they do in the absence of direction is the culture, right? And that's where we need to build that mindset, that thought process in the leaders, so that that is evident, that is implicit, that this is what needs to be done. Nobody needs to tell them that this is what needs to be done, and that agility comes and that the thought process comes by themselves, that because I've seen others doing it, I will do this because that's the right thing to be done. Nobody tells me to do it, but that's what I believe is the right thing to be done.
So while there could be certain processes, but more than the processes, it's the culture that leaders are building in that organization. So if I'm
Absolutely.
saying inspect, what do I really mean by it? How
Yeah,
am I demonstrating that day in and day out,
exactly.
or adapting to difficult situations? If today this is a difficult situation and the leader has been able to navigate, people are seeing that they
Yeah.
have not yet started adapting. But
Yes.
in second situation, the leader starts, not accepting, blaming, and all of that, which means I am not consistent. So
Yes.
whether it is tough situations, whether it is easy situations, I am adapting to different situations. If agility is adaptability, I am really demonstrating that people are slowly and gradually seeing me, and they start demonstrating till the time an explicit is becoming implicit. So, which is literally like an autopilot. And that's the culture.
Exactly.
And
You got it right.
that's where people are saying, oh,
That,
this organization is very adaptive. Oh, this organization is very decisive.
hmm,
Come what may, when they
hmm.
take decisions, they may not back off. So these are also some of the things that we see as a culture and not just process.
I'll give you an example just to relate it, right? We had a situation where we need to build more efficiency into the system. We have been spending a lot of manual effort and we had to get better at doing it, and improving that. So during my discussions with the teams, people talk about their challenges, and I push them back, saying that, hey, how can we do better here? How have we um, tried and improvise on reduce wasted effort or reduce manual effort, and how can we automate certain things? How we digitalize? How do we do away with certain things which are not important, right? And over a period of time, I have myself found areas where we can, you know, either do away with or optimize or we automate, right? And I work with teams to get that implemented. I support them. I guide them. I give them resources, and after doing this for a certain period, I don't need to ask that question anymore. Now teams themselves come and tell me that this is where we see an opportunity to get things faster, to make it more automatable and do away with things. So now I have established that culture that efficiency is important, and people will come and tell me that this is where we can build efficiency.
Oh, that's
So
a
that's not
wonderful
following
example.
a book. Yeah.
That's a wonderful example, and thank you for sharing. Yeah. So, the whole focus of being solution focused, so where the whole focus was building efficiency, somewhere people started looking at it as we need to be solution focused and see how we can improve those efficiencies and not just come up with problems
Yes.
and pinpoint those problems. We are not talking about problems,
Exactly.
but we are focusing on efficiencies. Yeah, absolutely. That's that was a great example of agility. Uh, this is one question which I have been asking every leader,
Mhm.
and thankfully, you know, I've got different ways where people are understanding how self-awareness is important, and I want to ask you that question. How has self-awareness helped you to become a better leader, and especially then managing things in these uncertain times? How is that very important for
Yeah.
you as a leader?
To me, that's the most important thing. I believe that moment you understand yourself, um, your strengths and what you are not naturally good at, you can lead yourself better, and thereby you can lead the people around you and the world around you better, right? And I have invested quite a lot in learning about my own um, strengths, and also what I can um, need to adapt to. And those areas, have given me a lot of insight over the last at least a year or so. I mean, surely some leadership interventions and coaching definitely helped me to get that understanding, and this I have been able to incorporate some of those understanding in my style of working, thereby adapting to the situations where I need to be doing things differently, helping the problem or the situation at hand, and also individual who needs a different style of leadership than what I can naturally bring in, right? um, Again, to give you an example from a recent past, um, my natural style of leading the meeting is, kind of structured, organized. I always have an agenda in mind. I know what I want to get out of as an outcome for that meeting. But that doesn't always work, right? Because not all topics require that kind of a structured thought process. So I've realized that I tend to look for meetings which are structured and organized, and I kind of disengage from the meetings which are not that structured. But when I have to lead meetings where the structured approach doesn't help, because these are open-ended topics, brainstorming stuff like that, um, I have to take extra effort to make it non-structured, because then I know that I want to make it open-ended. I have to ask random open-ended questions. What do we want to do in next 5 years, kind of a thing, and then lead the discussion as it go as it flows. Right. This has helped me because if I stick to my strength, which is making it more structured and organized, I won't get the outcome that I'm looking for, because people won't open up, because I'm restricting them to the agenda. I'm restricting them to the areas where I want to drive the discussion. But it's a simple thing. But sometimes you'll be surprised how simple things are not your strength, right? Uh, and what is strength for one person may not be the strength for other person, right? So it's always possible that way. But I've realized that this is, as long as you're being more conscious about yourself, you're being conscious about what you do in certain situation, how you deal with certain people, how do you talk to certain people, how you drive certain things. As long as you're conscious, you know when not to do that. And that's the key of the conscious and self-aware leaders.
Oh, absolutely. I
I'm
can so
still
much
getting that.
relate. I can so much relate to what you said just now, Alokik, that we all have a certain pattern and we all have certain strengths. And it comes out of our experiences, the way we have lived our life, the environment that we have been. And we naturally
Yeah,
we naturally adapt to those situations and build those strengths unknowingly. Many of them have been built unknowingly. And and because there are many blind spots, everybody is not like me. Somebody else has some other strengths.
yeah,
And if I'm going with those blinkers because this is how I am and this is how I like to do, probably we are not tapping into the strengths of some other person.
absolutely.
And in that process, we would have missed out on some valuable advice, valuable insight, or a valuable idea.
Mm.
And sometimes some people like the little bit of that free flowing conversation, or sometimes people like that little bit of, a curiosity that we are showing, and they feel that my boss is empathetic. He's giving me that listening ear that, yeah, I can share my thoughts. Somebody who feels that I will not share also comes up with. So navigating this becomes important, and self-awareness, if you're conscious about building self awareness, we will start identifying those blind spots.
Absolutely.
Else, we will never be able to understand those blind spots, and we are just, you know, putting those blinkers and working with the team. And then we
And
realize why it's not working at times. Why this has not worked? I have given all the instructions, but why it has not worked?
and it doesn't change who you are, by the way, right? It
Yes.
just allows you to do things differently. So by adapting my style in a given situation, I don't change my factory settings. I still stay the same person that I was, and I just become better and if more efficient at managing situations which needs that kind of a approach, right? So
Approach. Yeah.
it helps, and people also see difference in you, and they appreciate you when you do things differently than your standard operating procedure, because people have also typecasted, and we do that
Yeah.
implicitly, unbiased. We do typecasting that this person is like that. uh, but when you really make an attempt to change yourself, people do appreciate, and they respect you more because you have shown that you are willing to go that extra mile to make it work for them and for the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we are able to adapt to different situations and with different people, because we all know no two people are alike, but still our subconscious mind tells that, you're not doing the way I want it to be.
Exactly, exactly.
And that also builds that disconnect. And then the whole aspect of what we spoke about, trust and collaboration,
That
everything
that
gets impacted. And then the stress levels go up. That's very different.
By the way, it
Very,
takes effort. It's not easy, right?
it
If
is,
you
it
want to
is.
do something which is not your core strength, you have to plan better. You have to do things in a different manner, and it takes effort. But if that's what is expected out of you, then it is your responsibility to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to be a leader uh, you know, uh, who people would like to be inspired by, then I think the base to all of that is being self-aware and understanding yourself fully so that
Yes,
you are able to navigate various situations based on your strengths.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, Last few more minutes that I would take. I know we've had a lot of rapid fire questions. Uh, uh, you are working in a global setting, you're working for a global organization, you work with different people across various countries. Uh, you are in the healthcare space, so all the more there is a lot of stress. How do you take care of your overall well-being? Because today, these days, leaders talk about young leaders, senior leaders. They are constantly talking about about burnout and stress. They're always on the move, which is
Mm,
impacting the well-being. And there is a lot of research that's talking about how mental health is only going to go up.
mm.
Uh, how do you manage your overall well-being and also to avoid these burnouts?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's part and parcel of the game, right? I mean, you work in corporate setups and global setups and high pressure environments. It's not going to get easy as the time progresses, and it's just going to get worse. But you have to learn to live with that, and you have to learn to adapt to it. You have to have the mechanisms beyond work to decompose a little bit, release the stress as such, right? Um, in my career, I've had phases where I've had, you know, straight 12 hours work days for many days for that continued for more than a year or so at times, right? Not particularly proud about it, but it did give me a lot of learning, surely, in terms of how do you navigate those high demand, high pressure roles, right? Because only if you do this, then you realize how to get better. Otherwise, you don't. So then I build a system for myself. I then educate for others that, and it boils down to, very, very simple and basic things. What's important for your role? What you're supposed to do versus what you want others to do, right? And you have to learn to stop yourself from getting into or putting your hands or nose into everybody's work, because you know that their work will also impact you, right, at one way or the other. But you have to make a decision or a choice that is that where I want to spend my energies, or do I, enable others to do what they are supposed to do, right? And I have learned to step away and from certain areas where I, not that I'm not concerned about it, that falls under my responsibility. But if I end up in helping everybody, and if I end up doing everything for everyone, then I can't do what I am supposed to be doing, right? So you need to know where to draw line. You need to know where not to poke your nose unnecessarily, and allow others to do what they are supposed to be doing, right? And that's how you make time for yourself. You make space for yourself for doing what you are supposed to be doing or what you want to be doing, right? And of course, having said all of that, of course there will be instances where you need to stretch, where you need to support, but yeah, you try and minimize it. You draw a line at a certain point, and I do tell my teams also that, beyond a certain point, don't accept late evening calls, for example. I mean, do work with different time zones, so late evenings are unavoidable. But there needs to be a point where you say that, okay, now this is my personal space, I will not get into. And certain basic obvious things, like you need to have a purpose even beyond work, right? Because that's not your entire life, that's part of your life. So I do create my own routine outside of the work. I have my own passions and hobbies outside of the work. This is where I spend time, or at least I strive to spend time. Then there is always family to look after and look up to help you with. So those things are what helps me to disconnect and reconnect again to the work.
That's really beautiful, Alaukik. Yes, there is a thin line uh, between how much you can take and how much one needs to let go as a leader. I have seen delegation is spoken very loosely. But how are we delegating? You're delegating, and then we are micromanaging, which is putting a lot of pressure on the leader and the others. How are we empowering? How are we trusting in their capabilities? And another aspect that you spoke about, there is life beyond work, there is purpose beyond that work.
Yeah.
When you're doing the work, there is a purpose to achieve something. But beyond that, also one can create spaces. You can
Yes,
call it passion, you can call it hobby, or there could be some purpose even in that, which allows you to unwind, which allows you to look at yourself holistically.
absolutely.
And I think when we are only focused on one aspect of life, uh, you are already creating a situation of burnout. It's not the work that is creating burnout, because all you're putting every your whole self only in that one thing, and
Excellent.
there is no way to, there's a pipe, right? Something has to let go from that pipe. There are two
Exactly.
ends of the pipe, so something you have to let go for you to live that whole self.
Right. And it boils down to who you are, right? And as an identity, I mean, if you say that I am person XYZ, my title is XYZ, and that's who I am, then you're just restricting yourself, because more than your title, right? You, of course, you have different aspects of your life. So that's what I believe in. I mean, of course, there are 5 days and, 40, 50 hours which you spend to the work. Then there is always aspects of doing more than that, because you can, and there is always work. Work is not going to end, so you can do as much as you want, but then at what cost is the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Super. Um Now, I mean, a lot of organizations, they are focusing on profits. Profit is the key. I'm not saying profit is not key, but while profit, if there is no profit, organizations will not survive. So
Yeah.
profit is given. But and in the healthcare space, where there's so much of competition, there are so many things happening, there's so much of technology enhancements that have happened. But within all that profit, uh, that one has to manage, how does this other 2P of people and planet get balanced? And what are some leadership decisions that you take where you are able to see the people, planet, and profits all are sort of synced and not just the profit?
Yeah, I mean, that's um, what you said is right. um, you have to balance it, people, planet, and profit. See, to my limited understanding, right? Because my scope of work and the way I operate doesn't give me all the possibility. But of course, people and profit is very um, much what I do. Uh, my understanding and my belief is that if you take care of the people, profit will follow. And if you take care of people and profit, of course, connecting it to the purpose, then the planet aspect is also taken care. Um, in my limited scope of responsibility from sustainability angle point of view, um, we do influence some of the decisions, if not many, but we do influence some of the decisions in terms of how do we want to do things in more efficient manner, how do we want to consume less resources, how do we do more with the same or even less, so that we don't overspend on certain aspects, right? These are the things that I can control, and I, connecting it to the efficiency thing that we discussed, it's an indirect measure to how we help the planet. Because I mean, beyond office and the corporate setup, in my personal capacity, whatever I can do, reuse, re-implement, and recycle, that we of course end up doing. But within the scope of responsibility, I think one has to really think through and find a connect, because nobody is going to give you that. And what I have come to understand is that more I focus on the efficiency, more I'm helping the business from the profit point of view. People also get a angle to do more, and they grow and they are happier, and also it helps the planet. So that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for connecting back to the efficiency aspect. uh, as you are increasing the efficiency, people are getting exposure to do a lot of things. Maybe
Absolutely.
because they are becoming more productive and efficient, they're able
Right.
to manage their time, they're able to manage their work, they're able to learn more, they're able to grow more. Because human beings are not just craving to get more money, or they
Absolutely.
just don't come to work to get some some more money, but they're coming so that they can learn more, they can enhance their own potential. And leaders like you, if you're tapping into the potential of these people, and when they are taken care of, and taken care of not from a perspective of money, but in terms of their growth, in terms of their learning, they
Right.
automatically help the business grow, and profitability is just an outcome of how you are helping people grow.
Absolutely. That's what I said. If you take care of people, the profit will follow. And if you take care of all three of them, then even the business will thrive, people will be happy, and we do
Yeah,
what we can for the planet as
yeah, absolutely. And in the space that you are in, when these two things are taken care of, your planet, that is the people around, are automatically taken care of. So that you have been in the leadership role for such a long time, and I've seen you, and through this conversation, you shared some valuable things out of your experience. What's the one advice that you will give future leaders if they have to live and lead consciously? What is that one advice you would give them?
well. I mean, we spoke about it, right? To me, most important thing as a leader is being self-aware. And if you do that, you invest into yourself, you invest into knowing what you should and could do. That helps you, that helps people around you, and that definitely helps the organization. As if you're scaling up as a leader, I've seen many leaders who are sort of a title leader, not to criticize, but definitely they definitely can do better in terms of first understanding their own strengths and then aligning with others to align. The challenge here is you won't always come to know your own blind spots, and you nobody comes and tell you on face that, hey, you need to improve on this, or you are good at this. You have to figure it out through help, and you need to get help. And this is another definitely important thing that I have learned for myself, and I recommend anyone to get a coach, to get a mentor, and have a trusted colleague who, or at least a trusted colleague who can guide you or tell you that what you need to get better at, right? So unless you get a mirror shown to you, you sometimes don't learn even the most obvious things that is there for everyone. You don't see that. um, so having a different person, different perspective, it could be somebody in your family also. It doesn't have to be an office colleague, but sometimes knowing yourself is not as simple as you can think of, right? So getting a coach does help. Asking for help does help. And sometimes showing up that fine, you don't have to be an alpha leader always, right? You can always say that I don't know what you're putting me into, right? So give me some support. Raising hands and saying that I need help is not a sign of weakness, it's just a sign of growth. So I firmly believe that moment you don't know, you have to say that. Don't pretend that you know. That makes more problem than doing anything good for the business or organization. Yeah, those are the things that I would recommend. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Alokit, that those are some real valuable advice for probably not just the future leaders, even for the current leaders. And a leader is not called a leader because he has a title. A leader is a leader when he or she is investing in himself or herself to understand their strengths, and the blind spots. And as you rightly said, nobody is going to go and tell a leader with 20 years of experience what you're not doing right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they're not going to be appreciative of that. But having a mentor or a coach and understanding what they are doing well and what they could do better, uh, that blind spots, and that's why people talk about 360-degree, the kind of an assessment when I'm getting feedback and I'm working on it, probably with the help of a coach or a mentor. Sometimes I've got the blind spots, I've understood my areas of improvement, but I'm still not able to do anything about it. Many a times a leader with so much of pressure is not able to do it by himself or herself. So he needs this mentor or a coach to whom he or she can share like a sounding board, and then through that relationship is able to improve for their individual growth.
Absolutely.
And as you said, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of growth. When I'm able to understand those blind spots and working on it, it is a sign of growth. And for all the listeners, if you've not spent enough time on understanding yourself, this is the starting point of conscious leadership. Nothing can move unless we work on ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, on that note, thank you so much, Alaukik, for your time and for those valuable inputs that you shared. I'm sure the listeners are going to really find this valuable and take their journey forward. So, thank you so much.
It was a very engaging discussion, Smita, and thank you for inviting me. We should do this more often.
Absolutely. I am only in search of meeting such conscious leaders who can share their thoughts, and their thoughts can go to the outside world where people can learn from leaders like you. So thank you so much, Alok.